And I now give the floor to Mr. Mark Lowcock.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam President. The most urgent task in Yemen today is to prevent widespread famine. Data released last week have confirmed again that the risk is growing. As you'll hear from David, malnutrition has never been worse. In some parts of the country, 1 child in 4 is now acutely malnourished. Words like acutely malnourished, food insecurity, and excess mortality are dispassionate, neutral, technical terms that obscure the horrors inflicted by famine on the body and on the soul. So how do the people, the actual human beings we describe in these technical terms, actually experience them? With no food, the body's metabolism slows down to preserve energy for our vital organs. Hungry and weak, people often become fatigued, irritable, and confused. The immune system loses strength. So as they starve, people, especially children, are likelier to fall sick or die from diseases that they may otherwise have resisted. There's no shortage of diseases in Yemen that will prey on these weakened immune systems. They include cholera, COVID-19, other respiratory infections, and illnesses like malaria, dengue, and diphtheria. For those who manage to escape disease, but still find nothing to eat, their vital organs will start to wither and then fail. Eventually, the body starts to devour its own muscles, including the heart. Many will experience hallucinations and convulsions before finally the heart stops. It is a terrible, agonizing, and humiliating death. And it's particularly cruel in a world like ours, where there is, in fact, more than enough food for everyone. This is the fate the world has left hanging over millions of Yemeni men, women, and especially children. The Nobel Prize winner Amartya Sen wrote decades ago that the history of famines is full of blood-boiling tales of callousness and malevolence. In other words, people who could stop famines simply chose not to. That too is the case in Yemen today. Yemenis are not going hungry. They are being starved. All of us, parties to the conflict, Security Council members, donors, humanitarian organizations, and others, should do everything we can to stop this. Time is running out. We prevented famine 2 years ago. To do so again, the world must act now on the 5 issues I'll brief you on again today. Protection of civilians, humanitarian access, funding for the aid operation, the economy, and progress towards peace. First, protection of civilians. Fighting continues along 48 front lines across the country, with the fiercest clashes occurring recently in Marib, Al-Jarh, Taiz, and Al-Dali. The prospects of further escalation in Marib, where 1 million displaced people are living, or renewed clashes in Hodeidah, whose port, as you know, is a lifeline for millions of people in the north of Yemen, remain deeply concerning. A nationwide ceasefire, as we've long advocated, would go a long way to protecting civilians. It would also help stop the slide towards famine, as data confirms the worst hunger is in conflict-affected areas. The Secretary-General has reiterated the call he made in March for a global ceasefire, specifically for Yemen. Madam President, the second issue is safe, rapid, and unimpeded humanitarian access. Disturbing attacks against humanitarian staff. On 19 October, a Turkish Red Crescent worker was shot and seriously wounded in Aden. On 2 November, a grenade was thrown at an aid agency compound, also in Aden. We strongly condemn these attacks. We're also concerned by the delays and administrative constraints that humanitarian agencies are increasingly facing in some parts of the south. In the north, restrictions have been substantially more severe. There has been important progress on some of the problems, including assessments and project approvals, And on Sunday, a long-planned pilot finally began in Sana'a to introduce biometric registration of emergency food aid recipients. David will talk to you more about that. And these are important steps, but more remains to be done. Tomorrow, senior donor and agency officials, convened by Sweden and the European Union, will meet to review developments and plan for the future. Let me turn to the Safa tanker. Martin's given you the update. We're yet to receive official approval for the assessment and initial repair mission. After several more rounds of extensive discussions, the Ansar Allah authorities do continue to indicate that they will approve the mission. Madam President, my third point is funding for the humanitarian response. With 7 weeks left in the year, our response plan has received $1.5 billion. That's about 45% of requirements. Last year at this time, we had received twice as much, almost $3 billion. David will tell you what that means for emergency food aid. Beyond that, 9 million Yemenis could also lose access to basic health services, and treatment of more than 500,000 malnourished children could stop. More money for the aid operation is the quickest and most efficient way to support famine prevention efforts right now. So I again implore donors to fulfill their outstanding pledges and to increase their support. More than $200 million in pledges this year, including new funding announced in September, has still not been paid. Madam President, the fourth issue is Yemen's economic decline, which is exacerbating the risk of famine. The Yemeni rial continues to lose value. In the south, the exchange rate is hovering around 840 rial to the dollar. That's the lowest rate in history. The government's simply unable to defend the currency or subsidize imports because it lacks foreign currency reserves. Essential fuel imports through Hudaida also remain far below requirements as a result of the still unresolved political dispute between the government and the Ansar Allah authorities over revenue management. The parties really must work with Martin's team to resolve the underlying issues there. So our immediate message on the economy remains the same. Yemen's partners must provide a regular supply of foreign exchange to stave off the worst economic collapse and the famine that would inevitably follow from it. Madam President, my final point is progress towards peace. Martin's just briefed you on the status of the joint declaration and its humanitarian and economic confidence building measures. Many of those measures, including a nationwide ceasefire, resuming salary payments and reopening Sana'a Airport, could be game changers, provided they come along with more money for the relief effort. So in conclusion, Madam President, when I think about what famine would mean, I really am at a loss to understand why more is not being done to prevent it. Thank you.